what if I told you that the voice in your head telling you to think it through one more time is actually the same voice that has been stealing away all of your opportunities, keeping you trapped in self-sabotage and locked in analysis paralysis for years, for some of you, maybe even decades? What if your brain, the organ that you trust to guide you on all of your decisions, is really running 200,000-year-old software that's out there treating every one of your modern challenges like a saber-toothed tiger attack, or I don't know, maybe the bandits are at the door of your cabin. Yeah. And what if I told you that 70% of people are literally their own worst enemies? Yeah. Not because you're weak and not because you're lazy, but because you're letting ancient survival programming run your modern success strategy.
Your Success DNA podcast. Your success is in your DNA.
What is up? What is up? What the hell is up, my fellow success seekers? Welcome back to another episode of Your Success DNA. Yeah, that podcast for my aspiring success seekers out there, whether you're an entrepreneur or you want to be a 9-to-5 escapee, you have come to the right place, because here we're going to deliver some mindset shifts, some habit upgrades, all mixed with a little dose of rebellion, helping you to break free from convention to build a life aligned with your version of success, not everyone else's, your version that's out there. And if you know someone who dreams of ditching the grind, maybe, all right, but always makes time for some personal development, sprinkle a little self-help, you might want to go ahead and forward this episode to them. Okay, so today we're talking about your brain as your biggest business partner, and it's the business partner that's embezzling your success. We're going to be chatting about the hidden neuroscience behind why smart people are out there staying stuck. And there's 3 things I want you to come away with today, and they are: first, I'm going to reveal the shocking research from Harvard and Princeton that shows how your brain literally chooses self-sabotage over potential failure. Bear with me, all right? This is a good one. You'll discover why your mind would rather have you fail because you sabotage yourself than actually risk failing despite your best efforts, and why this twisted logic is really keeping you from ever launching that side hustle or whatever it is. Maybe even just asking the significant other out on that ever so special date. So second, we're going to expose the cruel evolutionary joke called the extinction burst. Yeah, this is why your brain throws an absolute tantrum like a 5-year-old the moment that you try to change, and why that tantrum gets worse right before you have a breakthrough. Yeah, I'm going to show you why the harder it gets, the closer you actually are to rewiring your success DNA through what's called neuroplasticity. And then third, I want to give you the exact 5-step framework that neuroscientists use to stop your brain from embezzling your success opportunities. And these success opportunities comes in all form and fashion, but this isn't about positive thinking. It's not about willpower. This is how to literally reprogram your mental operating system so it works for your goals instead of against them. So all that said, let's dive right into things. Here's the truth. And I think, as always, some of you, it's going to make you a little uncomfortable. Your brain is not your friend. Yeah, especially when it comes to building the life that you actually want to have, right? The life that you dream and desire and deserve. And I know that sounds a little harsh, but here's what's really happening inside of your head right now. Yes, right now as you're listening to me. Every time you set a goal, your brain gives you a nice little hit of dopamine. Pow, there it is. I love you for that. A big hit for dreaming. But the moment it's time to execute, the time to sit down and get shit done, to actually do the work, that same brain that rewarded you so well, it triggers every single fear response that it has in order to keep you safe, he says with air quotes, in your current situation, to get you to stay exactly where you are right now. Your brain would literally rather have you fail because you procrastinated than ever risk discovering that you're just not as capable as you hoped you were. It's called self-handicapping, and it is the most expensive mental habit you will ever develop. Let me tell you a little bit about Marcus. Marcus was a brilliant software engineer, and this guy, let's be honest, he's one of those guys, and we've all met them. He had everything going for him. 6-figure salary, respect of his peers, this sharp, razor-sharp analytical mind. But he came to me completely frustrated. Tracy, he said, I've been planning to launch my own app for, it's been like 3 years. I have the skills, I have the idea. Hell, I even have potential customers lined up asking for it. But every time I get close to launching, I find yet another critical feature that needs to be perfect before I launch. Yeah, Some of you are probably nodding along. It might not be an app for you, but it sounds familiar, right? Marcus wasn't lazy, not by a long shot. He wasn't lacking the skills, certainly didn't lack an opportunity. His brain was running what psychologist Kurt Lewin called the approach avoidance conflict. Part of him desperately wanted the success, but another part was horribly terrified of what success might actually demand of him. Yeah, here's what's really happening inside your head. Let's use Marcus. Inside his amygdala, the amygdala is that ancient system inside of your head that's designed to keep you alive, basically. And think about it, our ancestors, it was really important to keep them alive when being eaten by a predator was a real concern. But it was designed to keep him alive. It was doing so by treating his app like a life or death situation. Every time he got close to launching or shipping it out, his brain flooded his system with stress hormones, and it triggered this internal fight or flight response that manifested inside him as perfection. Daniel Goleman, he coined the term amygdala hijack in his book, Emotional Intelligence, and it explains that this ancient part of our brain can literally take control of our decision-making processes before our rational mind even knows what the hell is going on. Look, Marcus's brain is doing its job perfectly, just the way it was designed to. The problem? Well, the problem is it was doing the right job for the wrong century. And I said this in a previous episode too. This is what's going on with our brain. When I showed Marcus the research that I'm about to share with you, everything kind of clicked for him. He realized he wasn't broken. He realized he wasn't inadequate. He realized, just like in a previous episode, that his brain needed a bit of a firmware update. Okay? So here's what the science reveals about your brain's sabotage system. Let's talk about the Harvard-Princeton self-handicapping study. Self-handicapping, I just told you what that was. Back in the 70s, researchers Stephen Bergglass from Harvard and Edward Jones from Princeton, they discovered something shocking about human behavior. And basically, everything about this show is about human behavior. Once you understand that, you can start leveraging it to your advantage. They gave participants a choice before they took a test. Take a performance-enhancing drug or take a performance-impairing drug. Sounds like a no-brainer choice to me, but here's the results. People in this study actually chose the drug that would make them perform worse rather than risk failing without them having an excuse. Let that sink in for a moment, would you? I mean, really think about it. Your brain would rather guarantee failure with an excuse than risk discovering that you actually have limitations. I know, rationally, we understand we have limitations, but this is why you procrastinate on important projects. This is why you find quote-unquote urgent busy work when you should be working on your side hustle. This is why you find excuses not to ask that beautiful woman out or that handsome guy out, because you're afraid of your limitations. Your brain is giving you a built-in excuse for why you haven't succeeded yet. Okay? Now, this is where we talked, remember earlier, I talked about the extinction burst phenomena. So this is the area where it really starts to get cruel. When you finally sit down and say, screw this, and decide to change, you're going to stop procrastinating. You're going to start that business. You're going to break those self-defeating patterns. You're going to ask that person out. Your brain doesn't just resist. It goes, full stop. It throws what psychologists call an extinction burst at you. This comes from B.F. Skinner's research with lab rats. When he stopped rewarding rats for pressing a lever, they didn't just give up. They pressed that lever more times. They pressed that lever faster, and they pressed that lever with even more force before eventually stopping. Your brain, it does the same thing. Now, I'm not calling your brain a rat, but it follows the same pattern. The moment you try to break your self-sabotaging pattern, the pattern is going to come at you stronger and harder and faster than ever before. It's not a sign that you're failing. It's proof that the change that you're trying to institute is actually working. Here's the neuroscience behind the sabotage. When you're faced with challenge or when you're faced with opportunity, two of your brain's systems actually just go to war. They're across the battlefield looking at each other, squaring off like back in the Civil War days. System number one is your limbic system. This includes your amygdala, which we talked about earlier, and it's constantly scanning for threats out there in the environment. This system evolved when being eaten by a saber-toothed tiger was a legitimate concern, and it's still in there, ladies and gentlemen. System number two is your prefrontal cortex. This is your rational thinking center that understands the long-term consequences of things, and it helps you make logical decisions. However, here's the problem that's causing these two guys to go head to head. The amygdala is faster and it's louder. Yeah, when it perceives a threat, which could be anything from the risk of failure to the fear of success, it totally floods your system with cortisol and it hijacks your prefrontal cortex. Research from Harvard Medical School shows that chronic stress impairs your hippocampus, the part of your brain responsible for forming memories and regulating your emotions. So, let that one go for a minute. So overthinking makes you worse at the very cognitive function that you need to solve your problems. The good news? Well, thanks to neuroplasticity, your brain has an ability to rewire itself. You can literally change the patterns. Now, this isn't about positive thinking. This is about leveraging your brain's natural capacity for adaptation. All right. So let's dive into this 5-step reprogramming framework here. All right. Step number 1, this is a ruthless pattern recognition. Okay. I talk about this a lot in my other podcast, Some Unapproved Thinking, where we just dive into different things that are happening out in the world through pattern recognition. You cannot change what you do not acknowledge. It happens inside of yourself. It happens in governments. It happens in countries. It's just a fact. Start keeping a self-sabotage journal.
Your Success DNA podcast. Your success is in your DNA.
Every time you catch yourself in some self-defeating behavior, whatever it is, write it down. But when you write it down, you want to write down some details. You want to note the setting that you're in, the circumstances that were going on, the emotions you were feeling, and the result that came out of this self-defeating behavior. Now, again, as I've told you in some other episodes, you don't want to judge yourself here. You don't want to overanalyze. You just want to be the outsider looking in and observing. You want to look for patterns. Do you sabotage when you're getting close to a breakthrough? Marcus was getting close to launch and all of a sudden, boom, he had this new idea. It had to be perfect before he could launch. Do you sabotage when things are going well? Do you feel like you don't deserve it? Yeah. Maybe you're comparing yourself to others when you start sabotaging yourself. Who are those others? Are they really better than you? I'm just saying. Okay. So step number 2 is cognitive diffusion. This technique is from Stephen Hayes, and it creates a distance between you and your thoughts. When you notice a self-sabotaging thought rolling around in your head, stirring up chaos, I want you to try this phrase. I notice that I'm having the thoughts that I'm going to fail, or whatever the thought might be. That simple addition reminds you that thoughts are mental events. They're things that are happening inside your head, not necessarily facts. Then let's take it one step further. I notice that I'm having the thought that I'm going to fail. Yeah, this one's a little trickier. This brings to the forefront that you are an active agent that's doing the noticing. You noticed that you noticed you were having a thought that you might fail. Okay? That's activating additional parts of your brain. Step 3. We're going to challenge the evidence here. Each time a self-defeating thought rises up in your head, stirring up the audience, I want you to ask yourself, is this thought helpful? Ask yourself, is this thought true? Is there evidence that contradicts this thought? What would I tell a friend that was thinking the way I'm thinking right now? Yeah. Ask all of those questions. This is where developing what Carol Dweck calls a growth mindset really becomes crucial. Instead of operating from a fixed mindset that says, I'm just not good at this, a growth mindset recognizes that abilities can be developed through dedication, repetition, and hard work, just like anybody else. When you catch yourself thinking in fixed terms, pause, reframe it as a growth opportunity or an opportunity for growth. Remember, as I mentioned earlier, thoughts are not necessarily facts. They are interpretations of your experiences, and interpretations can be changed. Yeah. So let's move on to step 4. This is environmental design. We want to make it harder to go back to our old patterns, the ones that aren't serving us. If you're trying to work on your side hustle, for example, instead of scrolling through social media, which is what you are doing, delete the app off your phone. Delete the social media scrolling app off your phone completely, or put your phone in another room during the time you know you should be working on your side hustle. Have your work materials at the ready and visible in front of you, and put your phone somewhere else. As James Clear writes in Atomic Habits, make good behaviors easy while making bad behaviors invisible and difficult. Yeah, let that rustle around with that one for a minute. That brings us to step number 5. Expect and ride the extinction burst. Look, it's going to happen. When you start changing, your brain is going to be like that little spoiled 5-year-old we've seen in the toy store, and it's going to throw a tantrum. It is. Just be honest. When old cravings or old patterns of yours resurface, not only will they resurface, they're going to resurface stronger than ever. And when this happens, I want you to remind yourself, this is my brain's last-ditch effort to stop me. The fact that it's getting harder means my change is working. Don't judge yourself for having the urge to go back. That's what your brain's designed to do. Just do like you were doing in the journaling exercise. Observe it. Act like a third party looking at yourself through a movie lens and breathe through it. It will pass without you acting on it. Okay? Now, before we go deeper, everything I've shared today, the research, the frameworks, the mindset shifts, this is exactly the type of content that I dive into every week in the Unleash Your Success DNA newsletter. It's designed for people like you who are still listening so many minutes in as you are right now, who refuse to accept the default life. Those who want mindset shifts and habit upgrades mixed with that little dose of rebellion, because you're a little bit of a rebel yourself, aren't you? You just go ahead and nod. I know you are. All right. All designed, again, to help you break free from convention so you can build a life aligned with your version of success. And if you're tired of your brain running the show all the damn time in the wrong direction and you want to take back control, head on over to yoursuccessdna.com and subscribe. Each issue delivers the kind of truth-telling, status quo challenging insights that can help you rewire your success DNA from the inside out. Okay? So let's pause for a moment here and discuss why this really matters. I mean, other than the obvious. We're living through, let's call this the self-sabotage epidemic. I'm not entirely sure it's all because of you and yourself. I think there are powers that be out there that are throwing things at you to help suppress your desire to be better, to lift yourself up, okay? But research from psychology journals shows that approximately 70% of adults engage in some form of self-sabotaging behavior. And there's many of them out there. That means, think about that, that means that 7 out of 10 people are literally their own worst enemy. They are the reason they're not succeeding and living up to the dreams that they themselves have. But here's where it gets more fascinating. Self-sabotage is not a character flaw, and it's not a sign of weakness. No, it is your brain trying to protect you. And of course, it's protecting you using ancient survival mechanisms that are completely mismatched for the modern day level of success that you're looking for. And as I mentioned, and I talk about a lot in my more conspiratorial podcast, there are powers out there using that against you. The cruel irony is that we torture ourselves with imaginary problems while all the real opportunities that we hope for and dream about kind of slip by under the radar. Yeah, your brain evolved to keep you alive. Your brain did not evolve to make you successful. Survival and success require two completely different parts of your brain, two completely different mental operating systems. When you understand this, you can stop taking your thoughts so seriously and start treating them like suggestions, like the suggestions you might get from that overprotective friend that doesn't totally understand what it is you're trying to accomplish, but they mean well, right? They always mean well. Oh, don't try that, Tracy. You're gonna get hurt. Yeah, I have to do this, right? The bigger paradigm shift, I think, is moving from being a victim of your thoughts to being the CEO of your mental experience. This is about building what Albert Bandura called self-efficacy, the belief in your ability to execute behaviors necessary to produce a specific performance attainment. This is where your brain works for you, not the other way around. And it does. Your brain works for you as long as you man the helm. So many of us have stepped away from the steering wheel or stepped off the bridge of our battleship that is our brain, and so it just goes on automatic pilots, okay? So all that said, here's your whispered wisdom for this week. The harder it gets, the closer you are to breakthrough. I need you to remember that. If you remember nothing else about this particular episode, remember that. The harder it gets, the closer you are to breakthrough. Most people are going to quit right when their brain throws its extinction burst tantrum at them. Yeah, your little 5-year-old brain's going, don't stop. No, they think if this was working, it wouldn't feel this hard. But that's exactly backwards. Because it's working, it feels hard. Once you get past that last tippy top part of your mountain that you're climbing, well, then it's kind of smooth sailing, right? You get to coast. Remember the bicycle days, cranking up the top of the hill. By the time you get to the top of the hill, you are so damn tired, and you are thankful for the downside on the backside of the mountain. Your specific action for this week, every time you catch yourself self-sabotaging, say it out loud. Call it out. Say something like, thanks, brain. I see what you're doing here, but I'm going to keep going anyway. And then notice that you noticed. Yeah. And then ask yourself one concrete question, right? And this is probably a repeat from a previous episode, but it works. It's that closely linked. And it is, what one small action can I take right now that moves me toward my goal instead of away from it? Yeah. Get focused on the good stuff. Don't try to stop your thoughts. They're going to happen. Don't try to fight the mental clatter that is rolling around in your head. Stop. That's where a lot of the stress comes from. Just pause and simply acknowledge it. Thank it for protecting you. Thank it for being there. And then redirect that energy that it was using to protect you towards the action that you wanted to take from the question that you just asked. Remember, you cannot lose if you do not stop. Your brain's tantrum is just temporary. Your commitment to change can be permanent, should be permanent, okay? So, listen, 70% of people are out there struggling with self-sabotage. But you don't have to be trapped inside that statistic. You could be part of the non-trapped 30%. You now understand that your brain, it's not broken. It's just running some outdated software, not really perfectly aligned with the life that you're trying to build. And if you don't man the helm of your ship, it will go on autopilot, right? And it's going to run the outdated software and you're going to go right off course, right? So all that said, you have the tools to reprogram your mental operating system. You know the difference between protective resistance and productive action. You understand that your thoughts, they're suggestions. They are not commands. And you are the captain of your bridge. And those thoughts come in and they're a suggestion of what you should do as the captain. You can choose to do them or not. The research is clear. Self-sabotage isn't evidence that you're weak. It isn't evidence that you're designed to fail, because you're not. It's evidence that you're human. It's evidence that you're human with a brain designed for survival in a world very different than the one that we live in today. Okay? There's no more saber-tooth tigers out there trying to eat you. There are no bandits at the door. Depending on where you live, there might be one. I don't know. All right? There's no bandits at my door, so I can say that. Right? So it's trying to keep you safe from everything, whether it's be saber-tooth tigers, bandits, or your own ambition. Which says, okay, to do that, you're going to put yourself at some risk. Let me save you from that. You're like, no, I'm willing to take that risk. My dream is worth it. But knowing all of this gives you the power. You can work with your brain instead of work against it. You can honor its protective intentions while redirecting that same energy toward the goals you dream, desire, and deserve. Your future self, as always, it's counting on you to make that shift right now, today. As soon as you're finished listening to this podcast, heck, make it while you can stop right now. Go ahead. I give you permission, okay? Stop letting fear disguised as perfection run the show. To have it stop directing your ship right off the path. Take control. Grab the steering wheel and guide it. Take control of your mental operating system and start using that incredible brain of yours the way it was meant to create, to solve, and to build the life you actually want. And with that, I'm going to leave you as I always do. Think successfully and take action.
Thanks for listening to Your Success DNA podcast. Whether you're starting out or you're a seasoned entrepreneur, we have the tools and inspiration that you need to take your life to the next level. So stay tuned for more game-changing advice in our upcoming episodes. And hey, before you go, a quick reminder to check out our past episodes of Your Success DNA for more inspiring stories and practical advice. And if you've loved what you heard, leave us a review and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues. Let's all level up our lives together, shall we? Remember, your success is in your DNA.